Honorable President of Pakistan, Kashmir Affairs Ministry, to Sasi, Dr. Maria, to all the respectable politicians, ministers, diplomats, ambassadors, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for organizing such an august gathering to mark this Kashmir Solidarity Day. This day is marked every year in Pakistan and around the world. Pakistani diaspora expresses unity with our freedom struggle. But I want to give it another shade as well. I was born in Pakistan. Half of my family from my mother's side is from Srinagar. I was a very small child and I used to collect funds for Kashmir, the Kashmiri victims, when I was just 5 or 6 years old, and I used to win competitions along with my brother and sister in Beacon House when we were studying there. We would collect funds for Somalian children, for Bosnians, for Chechenians, I remember, for Afghani children, and my parents encouraged us a lot. So I never knew that destiny would take me to the forefront of a freedom struggle, and I would be lucky enough to marry a man who is the pioneer of the armed struggle in Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir. But then he renounced it and he followed the peaceful political means of resolving the Kashmir issue, and he became a very strong and powerful political voice. And you know, just when I was going through these visuals, this has been with me since childhood, because maybe I'm an artist, I'm very emotional, and I can feel the pain of people, maybe even if I've not gone through that. So I used to paint Kashmiri victims as a child. And when I met Yasin Malik, the chairman of Jammu Kashmir Liberation Front in 2005, I was also one amongst you in the audience, and he was reciting a poem of Faiz Ahmed Faiz. ये धरती धड़ धड़ धड़केगी, हम देखेंगे वो दिन कि जिसका वादा है, जो लौहे कलम पे लिखा है, हम देखेंगे जब जुल्म और सितम के कोहे गिरा रुई की तरह उड़ जाएंगे हम महकमों के पांव तले, ये धरती धड़ धड़ धड़केगी और अहले हुक्म के सर के ऊपर जब बिजली कड़केगी. I mean, there are a lot of diplomats over here, but I'm sure you could not understand that. But it means that, you know, certainly a day will dawn when Kashmiris or people under oppression will get liberated. And when I was sitting in the audience, it was just like my soul was shaking because the pain with which he was reciting, because he is a man, ladies and gentlemen, at the age of 14, he put a sticker of Free Kashmir, and he was taken to the interrogation centers, he was kept in death cells, he was kept in mental asylums without clothes. He was tortured for so many years. A normal, sane person kept with mentally retarded criminals. So he has gone through so much. And when he fell in love with me, because for me, Kashmir, or any bond that you have with any person or with any cause, I think the first and foremost connection should be from the soul and the heart. And it was all love and heart for me. So today my message to all of you is that let's join hands, regardless of what color, caste, creed, or religion, or nationality we belong to. Let's join hands for humanity. Let's start a new era and battle for love. Because that is what is the most powerful emotion in the world that can make us conquer mountains, can make us go and jump in wells. Because that is what it was for me, because it was like going into a death cell, literally, when I decided to marry Yasin Malik. And he just said 2 lines to me, ladies and gentlemen, because it's very important to give a human touch, because we are human beings at the end of the day, no matter what area we belong to. And he just said that मेरी ज़िंदगी में सिर्फ गम है, थोड़ी सी खुशी चाहिए. I can translate it into English, that in my life there is only tragedy and sorrows. I just need a few moments of happiness. And that was the moment I decided that I'm going to give my soul, my life, my every moment of my life to this great cause of liberation. And at least it's a cause to really live by. Every moment of my life is under attacks or under threats. My husband, they could do anything with him, with his people. My daughter, this little girl, she's in the end, she's 6 years old, and she's deprived of seeing her father for almost 4 years. And she was attacked as a baby by the Indian forces when we would go to the central jail to meet my husband. And in this 9 years of marriage, I have only spent 60 days with him. The rest, he's been in prison or we've been divided. And as it was mentioned before that leadership also does not have travel documents to travel around the world. As the Foreign Minister of Pakistan already said, that I wish they could be. The whole world wants to listen to them. And luckily last year when I went to Norway, because the world keeps, a lot of people keep saying that, the world has kept a criminal silence. But I always felt that no, it's not just the criminal silence. Maybe it's the propaganda of India, that their hyper-propagandistic nature of projecting our cause as, God forbid, it's linked to terrorism. It's deep-rooted, it's a purely indigenous movement, and the videos that you see here, very few of them have even stones in their hands. So it's not like the stone pelters are combating people with guns or shooter guns or pellets. It's unarmed. Even the stones, few on the front rows, they have them. So it is an unarmed nation that has been held hostage by the highest occupation of the world. Just for a moment, imagine yourself, you're all from liberated countries, from sovereign nations, that you are in a place, you don't have an army to protect you, you don't have your own government, you have no say, anybody can barge into your homes, kill you, rape the women, molest your children, disappear you, and you absolutely have nowhere to go. Your voice is silenced. Just the other day, Mr. Modi, the Indian Prime Minister, was in occupied Jammu and Kashmir, and can you imagine the state was like? There were shooters, there were snipers, there was so much of, already there's over 7 lakh Indian forces, and the extra forces were also brought into the valley, and telephone lines were shut, internet was shut, and now there was a new thing that even the television cables were shut and the radio lines. And it was like as if God knows, some person from hell was coming there, some monster, to terrify the people. I mean, come on, India is such a big democracy. But the world must realize that they're equally the biggest violators of democracy when they have hostage, kidnapped an entire nation. And it is the longest pending, prolonged martial law, I would call it, the deadliest martial law, which cannot be confronted. So I appeal to all the diplomats over here, especially from the Western world, because Pakistanis, every heart beats with the Kashmiri people. They feel their pain, and I'm sure you also, and for regional and global peace. Because now I'm talking as a global citizen. I'm not talking as a Kashmiri, I'm not talking as a Pakistani, purely unconditional, selfless. We are global citizens, we are in a global era, and we need a global voice. And if we want regional and global peace in the long term, we have to resolve issues which are chronic and crucial and which are the longest pending in the United Nations. And that happens to be the issue of Jammu and Kashmir, a promised right given to us by the UN. It's a very, it's not something that we're asking some rocket science. It's a right which every human being has, a right to honor, dignity, and freedom. And that's all what we're asking for. So that's where we need your help. Maybe if you try to help the people of oppressed nations right now, we could, on the whole, make this world a safer place for our future generations. Because we right now do not have a voice, even though I have a voice, but our voice is being silenced. So that's where your role comes in. And every human being has a limited life, and whatever good we can do in our careers, in our lives, for our loved one, let's do something larger than life. So please contribute towards Kashmir, and now peace talks are happening in Afghanistan. I mean, there were so many wars going on there, and finally now the world has decided that let's give peace a chance, and let's have table talks. So I hope that the world will now focus more on the most oldest pending conflict in the United Nations. And in the end, I would just like to conclude with this poem I've written on our conflict, on our freedom struggle, and it's titled Carnage of Freedom. Let's stroll into the gardens of heaven, they say. Is it life or a tempest wild today? The occupiers' greed, the occupiers know. My creed is my Kashmir, be it heard afar, but never low. If those seek heaven on earth, go witness that beauteous, beyond all praise, a place called Kashmir, without the veils and curtains raised. And now this verse is for all the pellet victims. My shattered eyes are a sight to see, what a heaven coffined by griefs. These nameless graves of today were bustling crowds of yesterday, gone too soon, gone too far, where they lay. O mankind, now what to say? Have our turn and go away? The stains of their blood are alive, draining from every path and street. My countrymen have left for their trail without arrow or a bow. In their hearts just a woe. Days to months to years they passed without the sight of your glance. Then a martyr came in my dreams and said, don't let my wailing mother know I have died, for this life is but one night. Rest awaits the dawn of light. Even the doom cannot shake thy glory of his soul. He who lies at the fountain of love is thy martyr. Through roaring freedom from the streets and facing lashes of the tyrant's heat, who whips our weakly bodies with darts and tears in our hearts, and to the helms of the mighty hands that twirl our necks and bows. Torture, trouble, mockery, slavery, at every mile, what all haven't I suffered in this trial? What liaison can we have with the budding flowers, they say? This verse is for that little girl, Asifa. She was 8 years old, she was gang raped in Jammu in a temple by fanatic Hindus, and then there were pro-rapist rallies. So these verses are for that innocent child. What liaison can we have with the budding flowers, they say? One moment pencils and books, the next pellets and insha. Oh my Asifa, we are ashamed to call this earth your shining ray, where you couldn't dance nor play to the joys of innocence that day. The beasts were feasting on your hues and cries, and the temple bells wailing your helpless sighs. The tyrant that feels proud today for wearing thy crown, who knows, Mishal, in this battle of swords and hearts, tomorrow it may forever drown. Thank you.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Honorable President of Islamic Republic of Pakistan, Dr. Arif Alvi, distinguished parliamentarians, excellencies, leaders from armed forces, representatives of civil society, media, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed a great honor and privilege for me to attend this Kashmir Day conference at Aiwan-e-Sadr. And I'm here to demonstrate the bipartisan support that exists in Pakistan across party lines for the issue of Kashmir and the people of Jammu and Kashmir. And I'm also very happy that the tradition that was started last year to celebrate Kashmir Day in Aiwan-e-Sadr has also continued, and South Asian Strategic Stability Institute, Sasi University, and Ministry of Kashmir Affairs and Gilgit-Baltistan has contributed to this effort. Ladies and gentlemen, the bloodshed, violence, and structural abuse continues in Kashmir, and as we gather today to extend our moral and principled support to the people of Jammu and Kashmir in their fight for freedom. The brave people of Kashmir are writing history of resilience and valor by waging heroic and historic struggle against the brutal Indian occupation. The unmarked graves, forced disappearances, and incidents of sexual violence haunt the people of Kashmir even to this day. When violence is seen as an accountable act, even in war, let alone against innocent civilians under occupation. Since last 70 years, More than 3 generations of Kashmiris have kept the oldest unresolved dispute alive through their unbelievable sacrifices. The Kashmir struggle has been marked by an increase of human rights violations. The Indian occupying forces have increased state oppression and killings in Indian occupied Kashmir, which has not only strengthened the resolve of the people to fight oppression, but also today extends invitation to the conscience of the international community to listen to their voices. Ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, the silence by the international community to these incidents reflects a change of priorities towards the resolution of the Kashmir dispute, which has kept the 1.2 billion people hostage to the peace in the valley. But this silence of international community cannot be maintained for long, because as it was pointed out earlier, that a conflict in this global era in one part of the world can threaten the global peace anywhere. Let me also say that Jammu and Kashmir issue is not just an issue or a matter of Security Council pending resolution. It is indeed a very important binding resolution for both India and Pakistan and for the international community. But what I would say, that I am reminded of US Declaration of Independence document, where it is written, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." Today, the people of Jammu and Kashmir look towards the people in the West, particularly in the United States, and those who believe in the Declaration of Independence document, that the framers of this document said very categorically that each person, not just the citizens of United States, this Declaration of Independence does not speak only about citizens of United States. It says that the Creator has given every human being the fundamental right to pursue life, liberty, and also pursuit of happiness. So these values are today enshrined in the documents of every free country in one word or another word. Whether liberty, equality, and fraternity, unity, justice, liberty, you look at any constitution of any European Union country or any other country, in one form or another, these fundamental qualities are recognized as fundamental human rights. If you look at the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, everyone has the right to life, liberty, and security of person. If you go in history, self-determination is also recognized as a fundamental right of the people. Right of a people to self-determination is a cardinal principle in modern international law. Back in 1918, President Woodrow Wilson said, "National aspirations must be respected. People may now be dominated and governed only by their own consent. Self-determination is not a mere phrase, it is an imperative principle of action." So, ladies and gentlemen, today people of Jammu and Kashmir look up to each one of us, and people living in different countries to respond to this fundamental duty and to also help them realize this dream which we all have realized for ourselves, that how can we have, for people in Jammu and Kashmir, the right of self-determination and respect for their life and liberty. And let me conclude by the verse of Iqbal, who said, तोड़ उस दस्ते जफा कैश को यारब जिसने रूहे आज़ादी कश्मीर को पामाल किया. Thank you very much.
The United Nations of peace-loving nations to have done nothing for the people of Kashmir, but the abuses, the atrocities, and the carnage has forced the world body to release its first ever report on the situation of human rights in Kashmir. The censure coming from United Nations causes a huge blow to Indian claims of Kashmir being its integral part. Indian military has been rebuked in the report for having killed some 145 Kashmiris between July 2016 and March 2018, and for the employment of pellet-firing shotguns that left 17 dead while wounding 6,221 people during this period. Most of the injuries include complete blindness. Meanwhile, one of the first Kashmiri journalists to tweet the report was gunned down within hours. Shujat Bukhari released the report on Twitter, came out of his office, was boarding his car, and was shot dead by undercover Indian military operatives. United Nations has also called upon India for the immediate repeal of Armed Forces Special Powers Act, which protects Indian military from prosecution. The world body calls down upon India for never even once intervening to ensure that those who commit human rights atrocities are brought to account. This strengthens Pakistan's position when it comes to continuously reminding the world body to revisit the issue of Kashmir plebiscite. With the first ever UN probe into human rights abuses in Indian-occupied Kashmir, the momentum is now there. It just needs to be built upon. 70 years.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Kashmir dispute, we have looked at the human angle, we have looked at the human rights abuses, but there's another angle to the Kashmir dispute. That is the militarization of the Kashmir issue, both inside the Indian held Kashmir or Indian occupied Kashmir and on the line of control. We have seen around 1,686 human rights violations, line of control violations on the India-Pakistan border. The Indian state governance of the Indian-occupied Kashmir has relied on death and discipline as a measure to create social order and to establish the continuous presence of the Indian paramilitary and security apparatus to exist in the IOK. This is what the partition was supposed to be. These are the map of the princely states. It was hoped that it would be a just partition. Unfortunately, this is not what we have inherited. What we have inherited is a disputed, blooded Kashmir. The structure of governance, which we have seen, has created and has associated itself with militarization, which necessitates dispersed and intense form of psychological regulation through systematic killings and torture. Death is dispersed through extrajudicial means, and those authorized by the law, both inside IOK and now on the line of control, are continuing to do so. We have gone into the statistics this afternoon, so I'm not going to go in detail, other than to highlight two critical facts. One, the presence of the 14, 15, and 16 Corps has been used both to create structured violence, not only inside the valley, but also with regards to the Kashmiris on this side. The line of control violations have led to human rights abuses as there is indiscriminate firing and human shield is used of those Kashmiris not inside IOK but also on the line of control. If there is an understanding that Kashmiris don't matter inside Kashmir and they don't matter on the line of control and the world would remain silent, this needs to be readdressed. The Indians have argued that the 700,000 Indian forces and paramilitary personnel act with regularity and impunity to regulate movement, law and order across Kashmir, officially, according to them, to stop 800 militants. You don't need 700,000 military troops to regulate 800 people. You do not need 1,686 line of control violations to indicate the fact that you are unnecessarily creating violence and structured violence on this side. This story of mass murder and continuous violations only indicate that no violation on the line of control is in fact arbitrary, or it can lead to the Indian permanence in the IOK. The Indian violations of the line of control have met with corresponding response by Pakistan. And there is no mistake that no war between Pakistan and India can remain limited. These are some of the pictures of the line of control and how they have been bordered and fenced, and also the fact that how structured and continuous violence has been used to disseminate violence as a permanent strategy and as something which they call as the new normal on the line of control. It is also stated that all wars of violence and oppression result in freedom and end of tyranny. And from a Pakistani point of view as well, these are some of the areas which India has regularly used as line of control violations. The indication is the same, the argument is the same. But I would just like to state here very clearly that once violence is extended from inside the Indian occupied Kashmir to the line of control, the fact remains very clear that no violence will remain limited in response either. There is no war unless and until a war is imposed on Pakistan. And there is no mistake that no war between Pakistan and India can remain limited in nature, and no degree of force can dampen the spirit of resistance and freedom in the Kashmiris. All wars of violence end with the struggle for freedom. And life matters, Kashmiris matter, and so does the struggle of millions who stand with the truth and the oppressed people of the world. We believe that the 7,000 plus mass graves which have been found in India may be masked now, but they will not remain buried forever. You may bury the dead bodies, but you can never bury the brave heart, soul, and the strength of the brave hearts which we have heard today, who continue to strive and fight for the freedom of people of Kashmir. With these few words, we hope that we can understand the sensitivity, the importance of bringing an end to the violence in Kashmir. And thank you all for your patience.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Honorable President of Pakistan, Dr. Arif Alvi sahab, Honorable Minister Kashmir and Gilgit Affairs, Mr. Ali Amin Gandapur, Honorable guests, Assalamu alaikum. It is indeed an important moment for me to stand here before such an esteemed group of individuals who are taking a very serious and important issue. I would also like to thank the Sasi University and the Ministry of Kashmir Affairs in Gilgit-Baltistan starting this national level effort, which is very close to every Pakistani heart and every Kashmiri. The story of Kashmir is not a new one, and neither is the tale of atrocities being committed in Kashmir. But the manner in which it is being conducted now is at a level of conflict which cannot be understood. Kashmir is the most militarized conflict zone in the world. The state of Kashmir and Kashmir has about 700,000 military and paramilitary forces, while the Pakistan forces are deployed on the Indian-Pakistan border. The Indian forces are deployed in the state of Jammu and Kashmir, and that is not all. There are continued ceasefire violations and human losses on daily basis. These forces are involved in crime against humanity. The story of massacres and mass graves The documentation available on this is undisputed. The proposal by the Indian government to establish colonies for the retired army personnel is unacceptable, as this is an attempt to change the demography of Kashmir. This, along with the issuance of land to non-state Hindus industrialists, is also to destroy the demographic and the business makeup of Kashmiris. The special powers extended to the police and control agitations by carrying out raids, search, and target killing is unacceptable. Thousands have lost their lives, and India is accountable for every life lost and bears the witness to the fact that the role of the Indian forces in the state of Jammu and Kashmir is not that of a legitimate force. The question that needs to be answered is that why are these forces there? Given the nature of the human rights abuse, we have witnessed the nature of crime being committed by the Indian armed forces in Jammu and Kashmir. It is our duty to demand that there must be an international inquiry to determine the exact number of crimes being committed by the Indian forces in the Indian occupied Kashmir. Kashmir is an unresolved agenda of partition. The people are still waiting for partition to be completed, but as they wait for this, the suffering of the people of Kashmir under the Indian occupied Kashmir has entered into a bloody phase, and it needs to be stopped. India has tried to divert the attention of the international community for the atrocities being committed by the Indian armed forces by increasing the border violation on the ceasefire line. Last year, along the border, there were 1,800 border violations by the Indian armed forces. Innocent civilians died because of these unprovoked firing by the Indian. We have only responded to those unprovoked violations. They have created a perception that they will try to carry out operations on the Pakistan side, and Pakistan will just do nothing. Any aggression by India will be met with befitting response. Our commitment to abide by the ceasefire agreement is not a response limitation. There should be no misunderstanding that Pakistan will defend every inch of Pakistani territory, and that we stand with the Kashmiris brothers in their fight for the right of self-determination. The current Kashmir uprising is an indication of the fact that Kashmiris do not accept India's growing militarization, and neither will Pakistan. The struggle of the Kashmiris people for their right of self-determination has been termed as the militancy and terrorism by India to hide the realities on ground. How can you call people who stand to fight for their rights be called terrorists? Now the time has come to initiate a bold new strategy which can end the 70 years old stalemate. Our Prime Minister is determined